Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I hope that you are very well. My name is Lizzie. Apologies if you can hear the hail outside. And today we are talking how we track our reading. I am an obsessive book tracker, and I know a lot of people are, but just to put that in context, when I cleared out my childhood bedroom a year or so ago, I found so many notebooks where I had started cataloguing every single book I owned as a child. And I remember in year 7 or year 8 we had an IT project to create a website, and me and my friend created a book reviewing website. So when I say I'm an obsessive reading tracker, I mean it. And I've tried a wide variety of ways to track your reading, and I thought today I would talk you through the methods that I use and give you some pros and cons of each one. You know, there's a reason I use more than one, and that's because no one of them gives me everything. So I thought I'd just chat you through them. We're going to chat about different ways to track your reading. So the first and most obvious one is, of course, Goodreads. And Goodreads, lots of pros, lots of cons to Goodreads. I do think it has an unnecessarily bad rep. I think a lot of people, I think it's very easy to talk about the shortcomings that Goodreads has. But there's a reason it's still the book reviewing website, even though it hasn't had a major interface update in basically a decade. For me, Goodreads is a database. It's a catalogue of all the books I own, the books I haven't read yet, the books that I have read. It's just a really easy way to keep track of all of the books. I think that is Goodreads' strength. It is a massive database, a massive catalogue for you to keep track of all of your books. The advantage of it being the most commonly used reading tracker out there is that if I'm in a bookshop and I want to know if a book is any good before I buy it, I look at the Goodreads reviews. I don't look at Amazon or anything else. Goodreads is where I go. So for that reason, it does have its strength. It does have it's a good website to use. It does have a strong place in the reading tracker selection pool. I do really like the social element of Goodreads. I don't think any other online tracker has really managed to replicate that in the same way. So yes, lots of pros about Goodreads, obviously lots of cons. I am not the first person to talk about the things that Goodreads needs to improve or the reasons why we shouldn't use Goodreads. You know, the fact that it's owned by Amazon is not great, to put it mildly. And there are definitely ways that they can improve their interface and the usability of it. But as a database, as a catalogue, it is the best one out there for that. Now, the other major online book tracking website is fast becoming Goodreads' biggest competitor, and I think is probably responsible for the only updates that Goodreads has had in years, and that is Storygraph. I moved over to Storygraph. I say moved over, I still use Goodreads, I use Storygraph as well, and it's really great. There are loads of really great things about it. Storygraph is much more focused on your own tracking and your own statistics and sort of challenges you set yourself. So it's a much more personalisable, I guess, is that a word? You can personalise it a lot more to your own reading and your own goals. The thing that I really love about Storygraph is that there's a reading challenge function, and you can set yourself prompts. You can join other people for the same reading challenge if you're doing a readathon or something. I think that's a really great feature that really kind of stands out to me for Storygraph. And I do love all the statistics that they give you as well. In terms of the sort of database aspect, it's not quite so user-friendly. And the social aspect, you very much kind of pick and choose how much you use of that. But it does have so many really great features. And one of the things that Storygraph does really well is kind of recommending books to you outside of just ratings and reviews, because you also review it based on the mood or on the character versus plot, you know, what drives the book, on diversity, and you can add content warnings which can be verified by the author. So there are loads of really great features on Storygraph, And one of the big things that I think has really helped Storygraph kind of become an actual competition to Goodreads is you can upload your Goodreads data onto Storygraph. I've been using Goodreads since 2014, I think. And so when Storygraph was first kind of gaining traction, I think it was like 2020 or 2021, and I was thinking, I do not want to manually put in 6-7 years of reading data into a new website, but I could just copy it across, and it was glorious. So that is a really great feature if you're thinking, I kind of don't want to use Goodreads anymore, but I've got all this back catalogue, this history on there. So yes, I do still use Goodreads and Storygraph simultaneously. For me, they complete very different aspects of reading tracking. Goodreads is much more about the catalogue and the database, and Storygraph is much more about my own personal reading habits. The other app that I use is one called Bookley, and this one is much more geared towards your actual physical reading as a hobby, as an activity that you do. So how it works is you put the book in, most of them are on the database anyway, you look at your book, you press start when you start reading it, and then when you stop reading, you press stop and you put in what page you have got to, and it tells you how long is left in the book. It does build up a catalogue of the books you have read over time. It's not really geared towards that, that's more sort of bonus, but it is much more about the process of actually reading the book. And there are loads of other little great features. You can add thoughts or quotes, you can take photographs of the book as you go and put what page number it is. So if you're terrified of annotating your books, but you still want to make a note of things, you can do that in the app. You can play ambient sounds. It's just a nice little app to keep you going with reading, sort of tracking your reading sessions, and it is much more accurate at predicting your reading time than on a Kindle, which is always way off. It's never right, the predicted reading time on a Kindle, but I find that Bookley is pretty accurate. So yeah, Bookley, not necessarily one for cataloguing or looking at kind of trends over time, but is definitely one to kind of keep you going per book. It does also turn your percentages into pages, which is really, really useful and saves you from doing a bit of maths if you're on a readathon or something. Okay, so those are the 3 apps that I use regularly. I have tried a couple more, but they haven't really stuck with me or really taken off in the wider bookish world. I will admit, using 3 apps is excessive. I am fully aware of that. But, you know, I wanted to give you a little bit of pros and cons for each one, because it might be that one or more of them appeal to how you would like to track your reading. The last 2 things I'm going to talk about are not necessarily apps in the same way. There's no kind of shared anything. It's just for your own personal tracking. And so the first one is spreadsheets. I love a good spreadsheet. And specifically I use Google Docs, Google Sheets, because then it's on my phone if I'm out and about, if I'm on holiday and I want to update my reading spreadsheet. I keep a new spreadsheet each year, and I have made it do nice graphs and things. Yes, I love that sort of thing. One of the things I really like about using a spreadsheet is it is so adaptable to you and your own reading. So on mine, which I've taken inspiration from other ones that I've used in the past and sort of edited, and in the end, they just got too complicated. I was like, I'm just going to make my own from scratch. So it's just got the things that I want to keep track of personally, the statistics that I personally would like to know. If there is interest, I will of course do a walking you through my spreadsheet video if people would like to see that. The thing I really like about doing it digitally is that you can adjust it as you go. If you decide 6 months through the year that actually you really did want to be tracking the country the book is set in, you can retrospectively go and do that. I like that it's adaptable and that you can edit things and delete things and move things without it being messy. It just always looks nice, and I like that. I do start a fresh one each year, completely fresh document every calendar year. I guess you could do one that kind of you just start a new sheet each year, or you have a separate one to keep track of year on year on year. Yeah, it's much more personalizable. The downside is you do have to put the work in yourself to set it up how you want it and to put all the information in. So, you know, pros and cons. And the final one I would like to mention is reading journals. Here is my current reading journal. I've done a few videos about it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Much like a spreadsheet, one of the advantages of a reading journal is that you can adapt it to whatever you want. You can put whatever statistics you would like in there. You can decorate it how you want. It's much more personal to you. Again, the downside is it's a lot more work to put in to create the thing in the first place. But then you do create like your own ideal thing. So I don't really track like my annual statistics in my reading journal because, you know, I've got all these other websites and spreadsheets that I've just spent the last 10 minutes telling you about. I have all of those to do that. And they're much neater and much less messy, and I didn't like the thought of having to add in a page or ending up with like blank pages that I didn't know what to do with because I was trying to keep track of my annual reading or anything. So I haven't really done that in here. This is just kind of my annual challenges, a couple of stats I want to keep track of over the year, and mostly just literally a journal, a log of my thoughts on the books that I read. So this one is the most personal to me. If you've seen my reading journal videos, you will know I don't show you the whole journal because it's my journal. I've written my own personal thoughts in here. So yes, the pros, you can absolutely personalise it to yourself to a T. The cons, it is a lot more work and sometimes a little bit messy, which is not the worst thing in the world. So there it is, a whistle-stop tour through some of my personal favourite ways to track your reading. Let me know in the comments how you track your reading, if you have any websites, any apps or any tips that you would recommend to people. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it and click on the subscribe button if you would like to see more of me. Thank you very much for joining me today and I will see you next time. Ta-ra for now.